instructions. Okie dokie. So this is accommodated authority brought in the picture, Laura Caponetto. Yeah, exactly, Adam Fighter. But that's why we use tech. I mean, phone can do things I can't. It'll beat me at chess. But, like, phone can't play chess on its own. It needs someone to, set it up. But, like, that's all tech. I mean, that's the whole point of tech, is that it extends what we can do. Okie doke. So, introduction. Words can be used to do a plethora of things. I mean, that's just a funny first line. It just is. Okay, some such things require that the speaker have authority. Quite clearly, a speaker can have authority formally in virtue of their institutional role. Authority, however, need not be institutional, and speakers can acquire it informally. To see this, consider the following scenario. Sailing trip organizer. A group of friends wants to go on a sailing trip. They are discussing the logistics of the trip, but can't seem to settle on anything. Eventually, Jenny takes over and begins to make decisions. We'll sail around the Canaries. We'll charter a sailboat for the last week in August. She assigns the other group members specific tasks. Mark, look for a sailboat to charter in Fuerteventura. Excuse me. Kate, buy a cruising guide to the Canaries. No one objects. Everyone complies with their task. Yeah. Samaxis, you just dropped some good Marshall McLuhanisms without realizing it. I think technology is extinction of humanness. I hadn't thought about Marshall McLuhanisms, but I do. I'm not like that naive to think I just came up with that on my own. Like, I've definitely heard that from either Marshall McLuhan or other philosophy literature. So yeah. But, like, yeah, I mean, there's a few different ways to think about tech. It's like, yes, it's extending us. I mean, there's the extended mind, which goes back most recently to Chalmers. Yes, like all the tech people, like Steve Jobs, they're also thinking about this. Like, how is it going to extend what we can do? Tech is a bicycle for mind. A bicycle is a bicycle for the mind. A bicycle allows you to go fast. You can't go as fast without a bicycle, like that the bicycle lets you to do it. Bicycle is technology. There's also things that you can also describe this in more Heideggerian way. Tech is that which allows you to not think about certain things. It takes over for you. It's not that it extends for you, but it allows you to avoid thinking in certain ways. So it frees up your thought. It's not that it extends your thought, it's that it frees up your thought. And so it's like, well, if you are on a bicycle, you don't have to think about, how long it's going to take, because you then know it's going to go shorter when you're on your bike or whatever. So there's a few different ways, but like, so stuffs. Okay, so this little thing where someone just takes over and starts delegating. So arguably, Jenny comes to have the authority to order her friends to do such and to make decisions for the whole group. Her authority is not institutional, nor is it pre-established. Rather, she informally gains it on the fly thanks to her audience's compliance. The most well-received version of this claim has been put forth by Ray Langton. In Langton's view, the mechanism of authority acquisition at work in sailing trip organizer is akin to presupposition accommodation. A speaker acts as if they had Ivan, how's it going? What's up, Ivan? Hey, how you doing? What's going on, Ivan? Welcome in. Let's get a shout out for Ivan. Ivan, how you doing? How was stream? Unfortunately, I just got home before stream, so I was able to load up your stream, but I didn't actually stick around. I had to, I just got back from a barbecue, so it's like I didn't get to see what you're doing. The only thing I did see was that you had like something like arguments for God. I was like, okay, I wonder what Ivan is up to, but all right. How you been? What's going on? Anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Noger, No Gray, whatever. I don't care. Call me what you will. Just don't call me late for dinner. Yeah, and I read philosophy and I try to explain stuff, and I have weird opinions about things. So what's going on? Hope you had a good stream, Ivan. Oh, okay. Well, Frank has good questions quite often. So good that good on Frank. You converted Ivan. Ivan's been converted. Oh, he converted you too. We were all theists now. Well, there we go. We've gotten somewhere. Oh man. So we've actually come to a conclusion. Very impressive. He's actually protesting standardized tests. No GRE. Sure. How's it going, Unreal? How you been? It was the argument by degree. All right. Okay, I don't know. So you're all theists because there's like a little bit of God somewhere and you just like up the degrees or something? I don't know. That's funny. Not what I was expecting you guys to come in with. All right, we're all theists now. Although it's really funny, I think I just saw some argument that they said like some sort of theism is gonna come back. Where did I see that? Oh my god. I don't know. I don't know. And if that was a joke, argument by degree because you need the GRE to get into grad school, I'm sorry if I missed it. But yeah. Yeah. A super joke. Yeah, exactly. Machina ex Deus. Yeah. God from the machine. God from the machine. Exactly. You're a theist for real, for real? Yeah, hell, what's up, and it's me. Hope you're well. The argument by degree looked very silly. Yeah. Oh, I don't know all the arguments for God. You know, they've all been debunked one way or another. God. No idea. No idea. But people like doing it, and like yeah, I don't think it's definitely not among the best. I don't even bother thinking about them because I think the arguments are quite often very poor. The arguments for God, and that's why it's always interesting when someone comes up with a new one. It's like, well, why do you think you can do this better than everyone else who's failed in the history of philosophy? And it's like, well, people really, 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 really want to believe in God. And they really, 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 really want to have an argument that says they're right. And I understand people really wanting to feel like they're right and convince other people, but like, it's just a lot of times quite head shaking. The concessions and the silly arguments people make to try to justify like the apologetics that they do to rationally explain what they believe. The arguments against God are often poor as well. Yeah, well, that's one of those things where it's like if you fight with the pigs, you roll around in the mud. It's like, well, why are you engaging with the crap arguments? And if you're arguing against God, that's almost the same thing. It's like, why? There's just no reason to engage that way. Yeah. But, I mean, this is just general standard fare that most arguments are crap. Like, most arguments are just crap. It's like people are not arguing well quite often. That doesn't mean their arguments aren't believable. They often believe that. A lot of people believe it. But if you really poke at arguments long enough, they start breaking down. So... But anyway, what we're doing here is we just got into this paper. Like, this is the very beginning. And it's basically about how to talk about authority. Like, when do you have the authority to make claims or, leadership stuff. So that's what we're talking about today. So, yeah, it's like, why do you get authority to order people around? And the question here is, why, like, for instance, why should anyone take my word for anything? I have no this is not an institutional backing. I'm not like, I don't have a PhD. I don't have an institution that says I am getting paid to profess what I know. Because that's what professor is. All they are is an institution says the professor knows what they're talking about. I am not that. Why do you guys listen to me? Well, there's different ways of thinking about this. Yeah, well, when you get mod rights, obviously. I know, but like, I guess that would be institutional in some sense as part of Twitch institution. But like, why do I have, authority to make claims about anything? Well, I say I have my arguments and you can evaluate them, but that actually is not me. That's the argument from that's appealing to the argumentative style. Frank says, I think there are plenty of times cultures I could be in where I would believe in God, but that very fact makes me skeptical that any version could have any real support. Yeah, I mean, a lot of time, like, simple truth is that you're going to get a lot of beliefs and, where you start out from is going to be highly cultural dependent. And if everyone believes in God and no one doubts it because, it's just not the thing you do, again, you're probably going to be that way. And if there's no other option out there, then it's like, well, of course you would. And it doesn't really make sense to even say you're doubting it because it's like, it's not even that it's socially permissible. It's that it's socially non-existent to like doubt in God at that point. So it's like, it could easily be. And so it's not a problem. But again, if you think you need an argument to, argue for the existence of God, then you're in a world of hurt. If everyone around me believes in God, then I will too, so I can understand them better. Yeah, I mean, it's like, that's the thing. But here's a question, and this comes up a lot, actually. Is that a good reason for believing in God just because everyone else does it? If everyone else jumps off a bridge, would you do it too? I mean, maybe it's a good idea because if like everyone's jumping off a bridge, then maybe the bridge is going to fall and you have a better chance getting off earlier and getting away. But like, again, is that really how you want to, is that the way God should manifest as a, like, you know, because the group is doing it? Like, are you just jumping on the bandwagon or like, you know, mob rule? Is that like a good idea? Yeah. DCI says, does anyone ever consider that God once existed but may not now? Yeah. There's, I mean, the Clockwork Universe basically says, like, you know, this is from the moderns, that God set up the universe, let it run like a clock, and it's just playing out, and then basically God just sits back. This is a very common thing in the last few hundred years, where God has set up the laws of physics and then just let it run, and basically that's all that our universe is that it was predetermined by God. It is going wherever it's going in some sort of theological arc. And God is just, that is what God did, is like set it up and let it go. There's an argument for, but a fair reason for. Yeah, and it's a fair reason for attempting to understand God, but it's not like a, I mean, is that a good idea at that point just because everyone else is doing it? It's a good reason for trying to understand it. Yeah, it's a deism, exactly, and it's me, thank you. So, it's like, this is very common. Yeah. You're fine with deism, but it doesn't predict anything extra, so it's not really that useful. Well, that's the thing. A lot of predictions about God are really not that useful. G.E. Moore was a philosopher at the turn of the 1900s and so into the 20th century, and he was a very important philosopher. Best bus driver Marcus. Does Crash Bandicoot have toes or toe beans? I don't know. I never really played Crash Bandicoot. I don't know. I'm sorry. But like, so G.E. Moore was a very famous philosopher, and he became Christian one day after talking to a theologian, because the theologian was just like, all you have to do to be Christian is ask, what would Jesus do? And then do that thing that Jesus would do. After a year of being Christian and asking, what would Jesus do? That's okay, best bus driver. It happens. I've done it before myself. And the last time I did it, it was kind of a mistake and kind of wasn't, but it was just kind of hilariously bad. And I just let it go because I was going to bed. Yeah, like I said, have fun pounding dudes was my last thing I said in chat. And the streamer just cracked up because he didn't understand it, but he was like, okay, I will. So yeah, it happens. But like, that's the thing. And so after 1 year of being Christian, G. Moore stopped being Christian because he realized he had no clue what Jesus would do. How do you know what God's going to do in any given situation? You don't know. How would you even have that idea that you know what God's going to do? If you knew what God was going to do, you wouldn't, like, this wouldn't be a problem for you. So it's like the idea that, like, oh, what would Jesus do? It's like, I have no damn clue what Jesus would do. How would I know what Jesus would do? So it's like, yeah. Yeah, I mean, but then again, I expect Jesus wouldn't ever hit anything that Jesus wouldn't want to do it. So he could drive drunk because he would never mess up hitting anyone. So it's like, okay. So it's like, yeah. So that's a question. Does anything actually predict the future? Like any sort of belief in God or whatever. Does any of those actually make any difference over the course of your life? Who the hell knows? Like, do we actually know what God's plan is in the moment? No. And sometimes you're going to get people that say, oh, God has a plan, it'll all work out in the end. That's nice. But like right now, like something bad is happening and that's not very helpful. So it's like, yeah, I can appreciate they're trying to soften the blow to say, hey, look, everything's going to work out. That's nice. But like, it's not really, like you said, it doesn't predict anything. It's not giving you anything useful at the time. DCI says, I like the skit when Jesus is sat in a Denny's and when the woman asks for a drink, for drinks, or he just asks for water and giggling. Yeah, it's like, okay. Yeah, the old Jesus just like making everything wine for shits and giggles joke. It's funny. So it's like, yeah, why are you making arguments for God? I don't know. But like people really want to like convince others, like they believe strongly. And so they're trying to, and it makes a big difference to them. Like people's belief often is a big part of their life. And so they're trying to, share their life with you. And belief is part of that. That's an admirable thing. They're trying to, relate to you, like have like things that are important to them, make that might be important to you too. That's fine. But it's like, yeah, it's not very helpful for the rest of us when they start spouting these like crap arguments, and you're just like, what? What are you talking about? I think it makes a difference arguments both for and against. Well, yeah, but I mean, that's the philosophy and like the discussion around it. That's fine. We can always discuss like the philosophy and stuff. I mean, the actual belief, what's it doing for you then? Frank Big Time says, I actually think of the specific instruction, what would Jesus do, is very good. Of course, I don't know what Jesus would actually do, but if I shove all the good traits in my head into a simulation, there's something there, and what I think that person would do might well be a useful guide. It doesn't really matter if Jesus was real in doing that. Yes, but like, again, what is the best version of Frank do? You could just say that. You don't need Jesus. You don't need God. You don't need religion. Oh, what do we got here? Oh, do we have more? Oh, Cinemax, do we have more AI? Is that what we got here? Yeah, so it's like, that's the thing. You can ask the question without religion, though. That's the thing. Oh my God. Here we go. Thank you, Cinesemiotics. We have a little bit of fan art to go over. And it's me says, it's me, the E. If someone busts out arguments against God, why would a believer not bring out arguments for? A believer might just be the I just believe type. I'm not arguing for it. They don't need to do. What would Wittgenstein say? Quite often, like, because we have what he claimed at various times, you could say, well, what does he say in a similar situation? But like, the thing is, it's quite often people are making up what their version of Wittgenstein would say. So this is me, it looks like, with Taco Bell in the background, and I'm something. I am something going on here. I don't know what. I've got sort of like a taco brim hat and like a hoodie or some sort of cowl. Yeah, Tao Bell. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Very Tao, like Zen Bell. Zen Beal. Yes, it does look kind of Unabomber. Ted Kaczynski. I mean, he's in the shack in the sky now. Alright, so it looks like we've got some weird dude in the background, and it looks like I might have a little microphone. It's funny? This looks like I have a cousin. This looks like my cousin. Yes, looks like my cousin Andrew. Oh, dear. Oh, wow. What is me as like an older lady? Nice. And like, yeah, all the trash behind me is now it looks like a painting. That's great. It's not trash. It's like stuff, but like, yeah. This is, oh, wow. Oh my God. Okay, we've got like mad clown style. That's great. So we got clowns. This is me. Who is this? Is this who is this? This looks like Sartre or somebody. Or is this Kafka? I don't know. Somebody. Oh, these are great. Thank you, Cinesemiotics. I love this stuff. The clown is for Continental Papers, yes. But I mean, if they're this clown, that's scary as hell. Like, that's very impressive. If this is the clown they are. Oh, it's Norman Rockwell. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, look at that. Oh, that's good. Yeah, clowns. And who's this one? Do you know who the lady was? I was gonna like, is that like Margaret Thatcher or something? Did you Margaret Thatcher me? Like, seriously. Yeah, this is fantastic. Okay, I'll refresh in a bit. Yeah, the clown with the half mustache is compelling. It's interesting. But anyway, we were talking about, like, we can keep talking a little bit more about proofs of God and why people believe in stuff. But, like, yeah, we'll get back to this authority thing here. So we're just talking about, like, if someone, just starts delegating all of a sudden, and everyone listens, like, what is that? Jenny is the leader, yeah. So it's like, this is called presupposition accommodation. A speaker acts as if they had authority and can end up obtaining it if no one objects. So it's like, yeah, you just sort of like designate yourself the boss, and then everyone just, does what you say, and if it all works out, you might just continue being the boss. Oh no, pre-roll ads are back. Alright, so sorry if anyone comes in now. Okay, so other versions of the claim have been advanced by Richard Thomason, Marina Spiza, don't know, I'm sorry how I say your names, Ishani Mitra, and Maciek Vitek. Okay, although their accounts vary in many respects. They are all interested in informal processes of speaker authority acquisition. And that's kind of what's going on here. Yes, I'm the streamer, and so this puts me up in front of your faces, but why should anyone listen to me? I just talk, and then like you're just going to be like, all right, maybe he knows what he's talking about. Stuff like that. Okay, in this paper, the author shifts the focus from the speaker to the hearer authority. In particular, I broaden Langton's analysis and argue that speakers sometimes act as if their hearer had authority, and the hearer can end up obtaining it solely by playing along. In section 2, I outline David Lewis's notion of presupposition accommodation and unpack Langton's insight by relying on J.L. Austin's remarks on the relation between presuppositions and felicity conditions. In section 3, I point out that just as certain illocutions require speaker authority, other illocutions require hearer authority. Relatedly, I maintain that accommodation may provide a way to confer authority to one's audience rather than gain it for oneself. In section 4, I pause on the potentially problematic interplay between this reverse dynamic and the gender norms of deference. Interesting. So this is actually going to be kind of interesting because, chat has a lot of power here. Like, y'all can revolt and just leave or whatever. And so I have to, this is like the old thing where, like, if your students are the ones directly paying you. Like it used to be like you are a tutor and you have to get tutor students. You have to sort of kiss up to the students so that they keep paying you. If you're like an old style tutor who only gets paid via because they didn't have schools, you had to impress your students and the people paying. And so they had a lot of power. And so it's like, this is hearer authority. You have to present your work so that they can understand it, and that gives the hearers, like in this case chat, a lot of power over how I go about what I talk about. Frank says, if you claim a leader role that doesn't conflict with the existing organization roles, why not treat yourself as a leader? Why assume that would be bad? Might be more work. That's it. It might not be bad, but I can guarantee you being in leadership positions sets you up for a risky risk when you make a decision and it goes bad, then you could suffer, or it might just be more work depending on what you're doing. Why assume that would be bad for the other people? Again, if the person's an idiot, then you don't want them leading. Why would they treat you as a leader? Well, that's a good reason. Why would they? Well, because maybe they don't know what to do. And when someone starts telling them what to do, I think this happens a lot. When someone just, says, do this, do that, it takes a lot of cognitive load off people. You no longer have to make decisions. You don't have to think about it. You just do what they said, just following orders style. That's why they don't want to do it, because they are absolving themselves of the responsibility of the consequences when the decision goes bad. On the other hand, they don't get all the credit when the decision goes well, but maybe you don't need that or you don't care. So it's why would someone just allow someone to be a leader? Give them all the risk. Simple. And some people bide their time. Maybe they don't mind someone else, being in charge because they've got other things that's going on. And so they let someone else lead, not because, it's I've got other things to do than make these decisions, even if I thought I'd be a good leader. One time, my uncle said, if I ever get myself in a jury room, because he said he's been in this position before, he says, you be the foreman. You be the foreman, or for a woman, or for a person, whatever. You do it, because if some idiot is now in charge of the room, you're just going to sit there annoyed while they're making dumb decisions about the case, and then you're going to have to go along with it. So you volunteer to be in charge of organizing how decisions get made in a jury room, because you don't want some idiot to be leading. An Abilene paradox, yes. That's funny. But yeah. Okay, so this is we're gonna be talking about how by getting power from chat, basically the people you're talking to, you're projecting power onto them. Okay, so accommodating speaker authority. 2.1, theoretical building blocks. So this is a person that builds stuff up, not the sort of philosophy I would write. Langton's proposal is built upon 2 building blocks. The first is Lewis's scorekeeping model of conversation. Conversations, Lewis claims, have a score and follow a rule of accommodation, that is, a rule that makes the score automatically adjust within certain limits, so that what in fact transpires counts as appropriate. Presuppositions make the accommodation rule particularly vivid. Okay, so I don't know what the hell that all meant, but they'll have to explain this. Imagine Ada and I are talking about Interstellar when I say, 1. My brother says it's Nolan's best movie. Okay, so author's utterance presupposes that I have a brother. It treats this information as something that Ada and I already share. Imagine, however, that Ada did not know that I have a brother. My conversational move is strictly speaking inappropriate, and yet, provided that Ada says nothing and quietly takes on board that new piece of information, the score will accommodate the presupposition so that my utterance will count as appropriate after all. Yeah, so if you introduce new information into like what was already a conversation, the other person has to just let it go and be like, okay, that's fine, we're just going to assume this, or they have to push back and be like, you don't actually have a brother, you're lying. So it's like, yeah. So it's like there has to be when you're in a conversation, there has to be some sort of a common ground. And you can change the common ground by introducing new information. Okay, the second building block is Austen's characterization of felicity conditions for illocution in terms of presuppositions. Quote, consider our infelicity when we say I name, but some of the conditions are not satisfied. Here we might have used the presupposed formula. We might say that the formula I do presupposes lots of things. If these are not satisfied, the formula is unhappy, void. Okay, so the author says the words I do count as an act of marrying only if certain felicity conditions are satisfied. Only if uttering I do is part of an accepted procedure to marry someone. So to marry somebody, the would-be spouses are not already married, etc. Such conditions Austen submits can be recast in presupposition terms. The words I do pronounced within a marriage ceremony presuppose that the would-be spouses are not already married, that the procedure they are invoking is socially acceptable, etc. Clearly, an utterance of I do, in the appropriate context, does not presuppose that I am not already married in the same way as my utterance of one presupposes that I have a brother. Okay, so if you get yourself into like a certain situation, your words have more words may have special technical meaning. So like I do means you are getting yourself married. You can't force the you can't start adding things in because you're already in a special situation. And so sometimes there are certain things you can't introduce, like I have a brother, or I'm already married. When you say I do, you can't be like, well, I'm already married and I do marry this other person, unless you're in a place where you can marry many people. Okay. The presupposition that I have a brother is what I call a locutionary presupposition. It is triggered by a specific linguistic construction, namely the possessive my brother. Like I said, I went to my brother's cookout today. You may not know I had a brother, but now by saying my brother, you can assume that I do have a brother. The presupposition that I am not already married is an illocutionary presupposition. It is attached to the force of the act I try to perform rather than to a locution that I use. Yeah, so if you're getting married, it's the act of getting married means you are not already married, at least in places where you can only marry one person at a time. Okay, so presuppositions in the traditional locutionary sense and presuppositions in the Austinian illocutionary sense are not one and the same phenomenon, yet they can both be characterized as contextual requirements, states of affairs that must obtain in the world of utterance for a locution to make sense and an illocution to be felicitous, respectively. Okay, yeah, so certain things you just can't say because it's inappropriate or it's wrong at a time, and other things you can say and it will get added to the common knowledge. Not a big deal, but that's okay. Presuppositions of speaker authority. If certain felicity conditions are presuppositions, as Austen suggested, then it should be possible to accommodate them, thus making an infelicitous illocution felicitous after all. Langdon argues that it is indeed so for the speaker authority condition. Let's return to Sailing Trip Organizer. The group is stuck until Jenny begins to make decisions and orders her friends how to act. Orders impose obligations upon the hearer and hence are authoritative illocutions. They are felicitous only if the speaker has authority over the hearer. Qua attempts to order Jenny's imperative utterances: Mark, look for a sailboat to charter in Fuerteventura. Kate, buy a cruising guide to the Canaries, illocutionarily presuppose that she has authority over her friends. When she starts speaking, this presupposition is not part of the score. Jenny is a peer among peers. However, since conversations follow a rule of accommodation, the score will straightforwardly adjust to incorporate the authority presupposition that Jenny's orders carry, at least insofar as nobody objects. Yeah, so all of a sudden you start giving orders, and then in the act of following the orders, that's the act, that's the illocutionary. Not the locutionary, it's the illocutionary. Sorry about the big words. That actually moves the score into the now Jenny is in charge of this thing in the common knowledge sort of stuff. Okay. It is to be noted that when accommodation goes smoothly, a presupposition enters the set of things that are mutually accepted for the purposes of the conversation. That's what I was calling common knowledge right there. If Ada does not challenge the presupposition that I have a brother, that content becomes mutually accepted for the sake of the conversation. I mean, I guess you could come back to it later, but like you could just say we're going to let that go or we're going to accept it for now. But it doesn't become true. If I have no brother, the fact that Ada lets that content pass does not make it true that I have a brother. By contrast, if nobody challenges Jenny's presupposition of authority and everyone does what she says, she may come to acquire the authority that she presupposed she had. Maybe, but maybe not. Like, people can provisionally act in certain ways and then stop. Like, just because Jenny is giving rules now doesn't mean, and people are listening now, doesn't mean people are going to continue to follow Jenny giving rules. So it's like, what does it mean come to acquire the authority that she presupposed she had? Why do you think you're going to have authority going forward? You may have authority for a limited amount of time, like an ad hoc committee. Well, we just put it together for this thing, and as soon as the committee disbands, the authority is gone. Okay, author says, there are complex issues here concerning the metaphysics of authority which I do not aim to settle, but one thing seems pretty clear. Whether or not I have a brother does not depend on whether my interlocutor accepts that I have a brother, but whether or not I have authority over somebody may partly depend on whether it is mutually accepted that I have it. Since authority is partly a matter of shared acceptances, the hearer's acceptance that the speaker has authority may partly constitute their having it. That's fair. You can allow someone to have authority. That's not the same thing as allowing that their brother exists in the real world, because allowing someone to have authority is something you can decide. Someone having a brother is not up to what you believe. Okay. In Lewis's perspective, presupposition accommodation rescues the speaker's utterance from inappropriateness by supplying a required presupposition. In a parallel manner, authority accommodation rescues the speaker's illocutionary act from infelicity by supplying a required felicity condition. You know what? Fine. If people start listening to you, they depict you the boss, then you're the boss. And I'm using the notorious B.I.G. for they depicted me the boss. Don't know if anyone is going to get that reference, but that was notorious. Accommodating hearer authority. 3.1. Presuppositions of hearer authority. Langton focuses on a subset of directive acts, which I name closed calls that carry presuppositions of speaker authority. Other directives carry presuppositions of hearer authority. Let me elaborate. Calls in Mark Lentz and Quil Kukla's vocabulary are second-person directives that call for a response on the addressee's part. Simplifying slightly, I divide calls into two classes, closed or imperative calls and open or interrogative calls. Hey, Rethius, what's up? Hope you're well. What's your take on Epictetus, I can't speak, and his thing about what you control versus don't control? What is that? The class, I don't remember off the top of my head. Was that like worry about the things you can worry about because those are things under your control, and don't worry about things that you don't have to worry about because they're not under your control, so you don't have to worry whenever? There's a lot of gray area about things in the world. Yeah. So worry about, like, you don't have to worry about what you can, like, because it's not in your, because if it's in your control, you don't have to worry about because it's in your control. And if it's out of your control, you don't have to worry about because it's not within your control. There's a lot of gray area where you don't know exactly what is and is not within your control. So it's very good for the things on the edges. There's the things that are way outside of my realm of possibility that I can control, and things over here that are things within my control. The stuff in between, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff like, maybe if I worked a little harder at this, then I could control it. I don't know that, though. It's like, but maybe it's possible. And so it feels like Epictetus doesn't really understand the possibility of change, because if nothing ever changes in the world, then yes, everything in my control is in my control, and everything out of my control is out of my control. But that presupposes that nothing changes between what's in and not within my control, and there's nothing I can do about it. And so that's a problem. There's no gray area there. So yeah, exactly. Cinesemiotics. It's like there's a lot of things that gray area, like what can actually we do about someone's health. Like, would they feel better if you brought them some soup when they're sick? Maybe that is a good idea. It's like, but you don't know. But like, who knows? So yeah. Rethea says Epictetus would go further than not worry about their health, but not worry about their deaths and treasure them as you have them. That's a good thing. You should treasure them as you have them, but that doesn't mean you should give up on, other things too. Just because you claim it's now out of my control, that doesn't mean you put some effort in. Maybe you can learn that something is in your control. Again, this fails. It sounds like it fails on change in the world. Science is at this level right now, and in the future it's going to be at this level. If you don't put the time and effort into go from here to here, you might not actually understand what you can do and what is in people's control anymore. And sometimes you have to work at it. Like, you have to hey, I need this help. Can you do it? And so sometimes you can make something happen. I mean, the guy was a slave for most of his life. Yeah, but I mean, that's very fair. Like, if you want to, again, this sort of psychological thing, this is outside my control, I don't want to worry about it. It's great for your psychology, and then you don't have to feel bad about stuff. This exactly. It's very stoic. You can only control how you feel about it. Sure. But again, that's putting all the responsibility on your psychology. I don't think everything is a matter of your psychology. Sometimes you can go learn stuff. It's not a question of psychology. It's a question of ability. And then you can maybe go change things in the world, or, affect change. And then the world will be different. And so it's like, again, this is my gripe with the Stoics, is that everything is overly psychologized. It's all on you. It's personal psychology. And I think that's not exactly how to get things done in the world. Cinesemiac says, or if I can't stop someone from getting hit by a car as I look on, should I feel no worry? You can feel bad for them. You shouldn't feel bad that they got the actual act of getting hit by the car. That, of course, had nothing to do with you. You could be worried about helping them after they got hit. I mean, I guess I'm okay with that one. It's like you can feel bad that they got hit, but you don't feel responsible that they got hit. Oh yeah, it's a hardcore old Stoic. Absolutely, Retheus. Cinesemiac says, the crucial aspect of the Serenity Prayer and the wisdom to know the difference, which basically makes the whole thing kind of question begging, because you would have to know what you might successfully control in the first place. Yeah, and well, that's part of, I completely agree. So it's like, where's the gray area here? And if you're going to be a hardcore Stoic about stuff, it's like, all right, but again, how much do you actually understand of the world? How wise are you? How much do you actually understand of the world to be able to distinguish between what you can and cannot change, and what might be changeable in the future? So, and that's really the problem, is that this is a very static view of the world. So, appeal to modernity? No, I don't think I'm appealing to modernity, because even back then they were learning stuff. So it's appeal to lack of have a little bit of humility. You don't actually know all the things that are going on in the world, Epictetus. Maybe you can work on your psychology. You're 100% right, but that you can work on your psychology. But even in the ancient world, they were learning tons of stuff, and so it's like maybe you can affect change then. Yeah, exactly. Comparing you. Good point, Retheus. Comparing ye old ancient stuff we have now, but I'm saying I don't think so. They were learning a lot of stuff back in the day. They were, they were smart people, the Greeks. So it's like Epictetus, pronounced Epictetus, really? Epictetus. Okay, I did not know that. I'm probably gonna forget though pretty quickly, because I've been saying Epictetus for a long time. Epictetus. But yeah. But that's the thing, even back then, they were learning stuff. They were making progress. It's where a lot of, mathematics was moving along. You just want me to say titties, don't you? Is that pick titties? Okay, I got you. Very, very funny. You want me to say titties? What are you, like 12? Oh, that's actually funny. I wonder if there's like a picture of epic titties, and then you like with like titties on them. That'd be kind of funny. Epic titties. It's actually pronounced "eat at Denny's for Satan." Good to know. I will keep that in mind. Again, like I said, I've been pronouncing it this way for a long time, so I may forget that it's actually pronounced "eat at Denny's for Satan," but I will try to remember. All right. So back to the paper unless you have more stuff to chat about. It's like, again, who gets authority? I thought that was common knowledge. I am not, there's no guarantee that I'm pronouncing this right. I don't know when I learned how to say the name. I'm not a classicist. We could go bug Aris, and maybe he knows the correct pronunciation, but I've always said Epictetus, so it's like, although I'm really liking Epic Titties. Epic Titties seems like a fantastic name. Epic Titties. Yeah. And that'd be just kind of funny to annoy the Stoics, especially if that's like a butchering of his name. We'll call him Epic Titties and see if I can really annoy some Stoics by calling him Epic Titties. That's actually a great idea. Thank you. I've been on a quest to what is the single easiest way to most annoy Stoics, because they're all about this like psychological, it's all how you see, that's the thing. That's the thing, Ivan Neo. I want to annoy them so that they are claiming to be Stoic, but I want them to be like deep down really annoyed. Yeah, exactly. And same with Rhetheus. I really like them, but I'm more on the cynic side of things. I'm like, it's not all psychological. It's more, there's other things going on. And then you get a little farther away, you get someone like Aris, who's Aristotelian. And it's like, it's like, it's just different things. But Aristotle is less psychological than the Stoics. The solution to problems in the world is sometimes that you don't have any money. It's not the way you're viewing the world. It's like, that's the problem. Sometimes you need food, you need friends. Like, that doesn't work if you're Stoic. It's just how you perceive the world. Anyway, I keep mentioning Aris. If anyone here does not know, Aris is Aristotle. The first link there, he does ethics, ancient, and ask me anything streams. He's shockingly good at explaining some like ethical concepts and stuff like that. Above Yourself TV, Agni James, there he does metaphysics, mind, philosophy of science, and he's a chess tutor, so you get a little bit of chess, a little bit of philosophy, but a lot of his content is meditations, guided meditations. So he's more holistic. He's trying to make you like better as a person, not just like thinks about philosophy of stuff. Yeah, you don't need one, Rhetheus. It's no big deal. Ivan says, well, you can affect your wealth, so Stoics are fine with changing economic conditions. Yeah, sure, but like... but like, this is like, it's so limited, like what they're doing. Sometimes it's like, oh, you're unhappy? Well, that's because how you perceive it. It's like, well, come on, man. Sometimes it's other things. Yeah. You're a subjectivist. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, there's the Ask a Philosopher people too. I don't usually shout them out very much, but they do a once a month Ask a Philosopher. First Friday of the month, you can go over their stream. I think Ivan was there last time. I don't know if he liked it, but like he was there last time. So like they're a good crew. It's a little different. So those folks. But yeah, so those are the philosophy people and Ivan who's in chat. So I don't know, Ivan, what your tags, but I put science and rationality by you. So okay, so what we're talking about is the way we are talking to people and stuff. So either you're giving someone an order that's an imperative or open, you're asking a question that they have to answer. So you're asking something of someone to do something, or you're asking them a question that they have to answer. So a felicitous close call, such as an order or a command, imputes an obligation on the hearer, whereas a felicitous open call, such as a request or proposal, gives the one called on a reason to behave in certain ways, but such a reason does not constitute an obligation. Yeah, so you're asking versus telling someone. Yeah. Okay, so since they do not create obligations, open calls do not generally require speaker authority. You can ask someone to do something out of goodness of their heart or in some sort of self-organizing sense, but you're not actually ordering them to do it. You say, hey, look, if you would do this and they would do that, then we could get this all organized. And so you're not actually ordering them, do this and you do that. Okay, this does not preclude the possibility that certain open calls require hearer authority. To explore this possibility, it may be useful to look at the paradigmatic open call, namely a request. Nose issues. The illocutionary category of request includes at least 2 subcategories. Consider the following utterances. 3. Would you mop the kitchen floor, please? And 4. Can I stay out till midnight tonight, Mom? The utterer of 3 asks the addressee to do something. The utterer of 4 seeks to obtain a concession from the addressee to act in a particular way. 3 is a simple request. 4 is a request for permission. My grandma always used to say that my grandpa would say whenever someone would say somebody needs to take the trash out, they knew the somebody was them. So it's not like would somebody please take out the trash was actually not a question or a request. It was an order. But that's the pragmatics of the thing. All right, yeah, so would you mop the kitchen floor, please, is a request, and asking for permission is this other one. In asking for permission, a speaker illocutionarily supposes that the activity represented in the proposition is under the hearer's sole jurisdiction. What's up, Bowser Big Bean Burrito? Welcome in. Hope you're well. In seeking to get permission from you to stay out till midnight tonight, your teenage son is taking for granted that his curfew falls within the jurisdiction of your parental authority, and that staying out at night is something that he has no right to do without obtaining your consent. In contrast, when a simple request is made, one does not generally presuppose that the hearer has sole jurisdiction over the requested activity. Yeah, so like doing chores, other people might do them. Even though when my grandma said somebody, my grandpa knew it meant him. But like in that case, that was a special case. Against this backdrop, I hear that permission requests, unlike simple requests, abide by a hearer authority condition. A permission request is felicitous only if the hearer has authority over the activity at stake and the speaker does not share it. The question I address in what follows is, can a speaker who asks for permission end up conferring the hearer an authority that they did not clearly have beforehand? To anticipate, my answer is yes. Alright, so this is very sort of, I can see this is very plausible. Like people have sort of like dominant relationships or whatever. You are giving someone a permission to like give you rules or whatever, and then you ask for permission. And it's like you can set up like these the power things as crazy as any relationship you want. It's like parent-child or dom-sub. Like this is just like the stuff that went through my head, and I was like, oh yeah, you can ask for terribly weird things and then wait for someone to do that. Because I was thinking like there's what's it? I remember someone got into a lot of trouble online. They were financial dominatrix, and the person was ordering the people on stream to give them money. Now that's like kind of a big no-no. I don't tell my chat to give me money. It's like, that's stupid. I wouldn't do that. But like they were doing that, and so it seemed very awkward. And it's like, well, then the chat could ask, oh, am I permitted to spend the money over here? And it's like, that's a weird question. It's your money. But like they were giving the financial dominatrix the power to decide where they were spending their own money. Hey MDD, what's up? I hold the world record for Bowser's Big Bean Burrito. You do hold that record, do you? Okay. Yeah, but like this is the thing. It's like just made me think about like really weird requests you might ask for permission to do. So it's like there's all sorts of things. That's funny. Nice emote there. Who is that? Yeah, so no you. Okay. So broadening the picture, consider the scenario below. Deferential wife. Yeah, so this is exactly it. It's like deference for no good reason. Yeah, findom. Yeah, findom. But it's just because you wouldn't ask someone who doesn't have control over your money where you can spend your money otherwise. But like people do this sort of thing. So, deferential wife. In 1960s New York City, Pete and Gina are a married couple with 2 children. Before getting married, Gina used to act in theater. She misses acting and Pete knows it. Joan told me there's an audition for an off-Broadway play. I'd really love to go. Can I? She asks him one day. You're serious? He asks back. A brief exchange follows in which Gina says she can get her mother to watch the kids. She also stresses that it is just an audition and there's no guarantee she will get the part. Eventually, Pete says a reluctant yes. Okay, so end scene. Pete has no moral right to grant or deny his wife permission to go to the audition and more broadly to get back to work. Moreover, the legal system in place in the 1960s New York City was such that Pete had no legal right either to do so. However, Gina's "can I" gives Pete a chance and thus a de facto right to allow or disallow her to do what she requests permission to do. Recall that permission requests are felicitous only if the requestee's consent is needed for the requester to rightfully perform the activities in question. Since Gina does not need Pete's consent to go, her request is strictly speaking infelicitous. I mean, this is a little bit unfair. She may have already they in their relationship may have pre-designated obligations to the family. And so the idea that they don't already have obligations to the family that this would cut into, I mean, and I'm not saying that she's deferential. It's this is how they're organizing the family. Now they will have to reorganize it. Pete may be a super involved husband, and even though she's being deferential, it's there may be no real power dynamic here because it's a mutual thing. It's not that she's deferential. It's that she's just not going to act unilaterally because they are in a mutual relationship in the family. So yeah, so it seems a little bit like this is a little bit forced saying it's infelicitous, because if this was what I was saying, some sort of other sort of relationship, not a family where you've got organization already, an organizational structure to begin with, but one of these FinDom situations where there's no good reason that you are giving someone power over how you spend your money or your time, that would be way more infelicitous than what's going on here, assuming that they have some sort of equal relationship in the family. Okay. So, yet it will count as felicitous insofar as Pete does not object. Putting it in Langton's parlance, Gina acts if Pete had authority over her. By playing along, Pete can acquire that authority in the moment, thereby rendering her permission request and his subsequent consent felicitous after all. As to the nature and scope of Pete's authority, a couple of remarks are in place. First, accommodated the authority, as I understand it, as the author understands it, is informal, localized authority. It is informal in that it does not derive from official appointment and enacts de facto obligations, that is, preemptive reasons with a because X said so structure, which have intersubjective validity but are not legally binding and may not be morally binding either. Yeah, I mean, this is all fine. Author follows Joseph Raz in characterizing preemptive reasons as second-order reasons not to act on clashing first-order reasons. Suppose Pete denied Gina permission to go to the audition, she would acquire a de facto obligation not to go that preempts or replaces her reasons for going, an obligation that she made room for him to create. Yeah, see, this is the thing. It's there may be obligations within the family that are now having to be shifted, so it may not have been so simple, but let's just assume that she is being overly deferential and there's no other things within the family that make a difference here. There would be no point in asking Pete for permission if a refusal on his part would not be binding for her. MDD says, yes, can I, here seems to be shorthand, can I go without disturbing the current distribution of relationship obligations? Yeah, that's very good. So it's this is, like I said, if we had a more contrived situation, then if I asked someone on the street if I can go do something and they said no, and then I'd be like, oh, they said no, and I did that. And that would be really weird, but if I say, okay, I'm not going to do it because they said I shouldn't, then that would be the situation. It would be highly localized and you're giving some random person authority. It could happen. You could do it. It might be stupid, but you could do it. Okay. Gina's "can I" does not grant Pete authority over her ad libitum. It grants him the authority to allow or disallow her to go to that audition. In a similar vein, Jenny, the sailing trip organizer, does not acquire the authority to order her friends to do anything she pleases. The scope of her accommodated authority only comprises activities for the organization of the trip. Yeah, I mean, when you start organizing something, it's ad hoc. The authority lives as long as the organization of that activity goes. Okay, second, different requests for permission presuppose different sorts of hearer authority. When Gina asks Pete, Can I go to the audition? She presupposes that he has authority over her, over what she can or cannot do, just as your son in Uttering 4 takes it for granted that you have authority over what he can or cannot do. In contrast, when I ask you, can I use that, while pointing to a laptop on your desk, I presuppose that you have authority over the laptop, that you have property or disposition rights over it. 4 and 5 involve authority qua guardianship, 6 involves authority qua possession. Intuitively, only the former can be subject to accommodation. If I ask you whether I can use the laptop on your desk but you have no right to dispose of it, say because the laptop is not yours, your replying yes or no does not magically give you disposition rights over it. But if Gina asks Pete's consent before doing this and that, thus presupposing that he has informal guardianship rights over her, and he goes along with it, he may end up acquiring those rights. Roughly, this is because whether one is a de facto guardian over somebody partly depends on whether the parties recognize and accept that one plays that role. Yeah, so it's like if I ask some random person and I did whatever they said, then I am granting them that authority. And that's weird, but like you could do that. That's what I was saying about like the random people online, like you're being like you're getting dominated by some streamer or whatever. Like they say like, go gift like 50 subs or something. Do not be gifting me 50 subs. Then it's like, yeah, that's weird. But then all of a sudden you've granted that for some reason. Okay, blocking the accommodation process. I have claimed that just as accommodation can supply a swift mechanism for authority acquisition, it can also provide a way to, more or less wittingly, confer authority to others. It is now to be emphasized that accommodation can do its job only if the audience does not interfere. Thomason construes accommodation as a special case of obstacle elimination. To accommodate what is presupposed is to remove the obstacle of an ostensible norm transgression from the conversational path towards a common goal. Yeah, I was just thinking, wait a sec. Y'all can like request that I drink, and like there, I just gave you power to make me do stuff. So there's a Twitch level, channel point obligations. Of course, the hearer can refuse to remove the obstacle. Metaphors aside, the hearer can challenge what the speaker presupposes, thereby blocking its otherwise automatic incorporation into the score. Yeah, so if I said a brother and you'd be like, no, you don't have a brother, it's like, well, then I have to defend it, but it's not accepted. And you can do that on these other things. Like, so if I ask you for like stuff, you can say, no, I'm not playing that game. I'm not telling you what to do. So, okay. Suppose Ada and I have been friends for 20 years and she has never heard of my brother before. My utterance of one will sound particularly unhappy and Ada may point it out by challenging my presupposition. Wait a minute. What brother? The same goes with illocutionary presuppositions. Jenny's friends could have challenged her presupposition of authority and prevented it from entering the score by default. Someone could have said, climb down, Jenny. Decisions are democratically made here. Yeah, so if I randomly ask someone on the street, what should I do? They'd be like, I don't care what you do. Get away from me. You're weird. That would be denying the authority to decide what I should be doing. Like, they're denying that. Similarly, Pete could have replied to Gina's permission request with something like, it's your call, Gina, you don't need my permission to go, thereby stressing that he did not have the authority that her request presupposed he had. We saw that while in Sailing Trip Organizer and in similar cases from Langton and others, the one who gains authority on the spot is the speaker. In Deferential Wife, the process of authority accommodation involves the hearer. Respect my authority. Yes. Jenny issues orders that carry a presupposition of authority for herself. She acts like a boss, and she can end up becoming one. Those who are called to speak up and block the process are those whose agency would otherwise be deflated. For the purposes of this paper, by agency I roughly mean decisional power. Someone who exercises their agency every time they make choices in view of their own goals and desires, or every time their action hasn't been externally commandeered. Was not expecting commandeered right there. If Jenny acquires the authority to tell her friends what to do in that context, her friends' agency will be relatively compromised. They will partially lose their power to decide the logistics of the trip. Gina's request, by contrast, carries a presupposition of authority for her husband. She acts as if he had authority over her, and this gives him a chance to obtain that authority. Interestingly, the one who is here called to speak up is the one whose agency would otherwise be inflated. Pete is the one who has to uncover the falsity of the presupposition carried by Gina's request, but he is also the one who would gain authority and broaden the boundaries of his agency if he avoided challenging it. But this is why I like my example of the FinDom. Why the hell do people get into financial domination of relationships? I don't know. I really don't understand it, but I understand that, like, you know, people like it. And so then you'd have to get into like the psychology or whatever is going on there. So like there's reasons people do this. It's not just some sort of weird infelicity. But like people do this for good reason. They're not like crazy, or maybe they are, but like not everyone is crazy. So yeah, that's the thing, MDD. Like it seems a little flat-footed. And you know what's interesting? I can see what they're trying to do. They called it 1960s. So they're trying to, you know, do the old throwback to like the stereotype of the deferential wife. And that's what they're trying to go for. But even then, like, you know, we've already had feminist movements at that point. It's like it doesn't necessarily, like, the example's a little off. It's okay. I know what they meant, but like, again, it's there's more things that go into a relationship than just like being a deferential wife. Like even in the 60s or whatever, like things were not that simple. Okay. It's like, so maybe if it was like an arranged marriage and then there was like stuff like that you already had it worked out, like that I could do this and you couldn't or whatever. But like, yeah, it's missing a little bit there. Okay. Jenny's friends must have the mettle, so to speak, to stand up to a bossy friend. Pete must have the moral integrity to admit that he has no right to decide for his wife and pass up the chance to inflate his own agency. Yeah, see, it's like, this is the thing, is assuming that nothing else was going on in the family dynamic. It's like, that's seems a little naive. Okay, maybe, but that's the example. We'll just assume there's nothing else that matters in the family dynamic. Okay, insofar as he makes no attempt to block the accommodation process, he takes unfair advantage of his wife's deference. Where female deference to men is a social expectation informing and constraining women's behavior, a man's failure to block is also a contribution to and a token instance of social injustice. I mean, this is fair. This is why they called it 1960s, but again, this is just not a very enlightened 1960s group of people then. But, I mean, sure. Again, could have made it clear that define it as having no other family dynamic. But, like, that happens. And I understand they're trying to make a social point with this, too. That's okay. MDD says, I don't know. It would seem normal to me that a husband should ask their wife's permission in a similar case, or a man asking their husband's permission, or a woman asking their wife's permission, etc. Yeah, see, maybe this was, this is the thing. Nowadays, we've got a little bit more of a, I don't know, enlightened view of like relationships. And this person was like, specifically by calling it 1960s, going to like this old style, tradition. I'll just go with old gender roles, not traditional. I don't know if they're ever traditional, but like they're just old fashioned gender roles that we should get rid of. And it's like, yeah. So we can criticize the example. I think the point stands just fine. It's just you'd have to switch it up with like one of these other, like if you asked a random person on the street to like, what should I do? And you can do that. Like, you can be like, hey, like, what should I do between this and that one? And the person either tells you what to do, and then you do what they say, or they tell you to fuck off. And that's like, okay, fine. Practical implications. Both sailing trip organizer and deferential wife highlight that authority is a contrastive notion. A right on the part of A to give B binding directives is a duty on the part of B to do what A has told them to do. In tacitly granting her husband a right to control her conduct, Gina acquires a de facto duty to decide to do what he decides for her. With her words, Gina extends the latitude of Pete's agency while restricting the latitude of hers. To confer authority over oneself to others is, to an extent, to shrink one's own agency. This has clear implications of moral and societal concern. The deferential wife vignette is set in the 60s. Yeah, see, this is the whole thing. They were leaning on this old-fashioned concept. Back then, heterosexual marital relationships were generally strongly asymmetrical. Today, in many parts of the world, they are far more egalitarian. Yet, our social practices are still profoundly driven by gender norms, suggesting that women should defer to male figures, and especially that wives should defer to their husbands, let them control portions of their lives. Yeah, I agree. The analysis I have developed helps disentangle the normative and marital fallout of complying with such norms. I have claimed that practical authority can be a byproduct of our everyday interactions, and that accommodation processes may enhance as well as compromise our agency. If so, then observing gender norms of deference might not only contribute to perpetuating a patriarchal, am I saying this right? Patriarchal, there we go, status quo. It might also crown a woman's male interlocutor with an authority that in certain local contexts he wouldn't otherwise have, while chipping away at her power to decide for herself. I mean, this is, again, these things are localized. If you make a practice of this, then yeah, you are going to chip away at your power to make decisions. MDD, do not make a mess of yourself, please. But yes, please, you can do whatever you want. Do not put that on me. Oh dear. Yeah, this is the senpai thing from like you see like senpai, can I do this? It's like that sort of joke from like, give me instruction, senpai. Like, oh god. Yeah, so there's a thing. If you make a habit of always asking for permission to do everything, maybe you can get in a habit of this. But that would actually violate the author's local claim. So I'm a little bit worried actually right here that you're chipping away at her power to decide for herself when they were claiming earlier that the whole thing is localized. Now, maybe they're making a psychological point here that if you always ask for permission, always act deferentially, then maybe you will be more accustomed to being differential and always asking permission, which would, again, chip away your power to decide for yourself. But that's a psychological point, separate from what they argued in this paper. And it may be true, but, like, that's, again, psychology, not what they were arguing here, because they were saying as soon as you push back, then, like, Jenny would stop having authority, be like, hey, stop being so bossy, Jenny. Chiron says, does the author also mention when there is an expectation that someone will defer authority by asking for permission in certain contexts? Like I once went to the bathroom without asking a teacher and they got pissed. This paper is not about that. That is basically a well-known thing. Like if someone has authority and you violate the authority, then you're going to get punished or they have a right to be angry because, that's just like the setup of the world. What this paper is doing that they are basically claiming is new is the way you can give people authority over you when they didn't have it before, and in doing something, in asking, can I do this thing, can I have your permission, you are then granting them something that they wouldn't have already had. Man, I'm falling over my words today. So what you're saying is more a standard account. What they're adding to the account is a way that you can add more authority to somebody else. Make P illegal again. Was it ever illegal? I don't know. Not here. Frank says, like, once I went to the bathroom without a permission, they got pissed on. What if you lied and you went to the principal's office? Yeah, I mean, see, here's the thing. Again, you're not supposed to lie. The teachers, you're supposed to do that. So this would be a more traditional sort of setup where there already was an authority or institutional in place, and you are just breaking the rules. But like that's not what this person's doing, because it's just people have been breaking rules forever and thought about it already. Okay. Author says, before concluding, let me address a potential objection. One might argue that because Pete and Gina live in a patriarchal society, Pete's authority does not spring into existence via accommodation, but derives from the power structures in play in the broader social context. Fair. I mean, maybe she found any random guy and asked him, and that's why she decided she needed to ask a random guy, assuming they weren't married. Just she found some random guy named Pete, and then all of a sudden, like, now the power, and it had nothing to do with Pete, it had everything to do with Gina feeling the patriarchy and needing a man's permission to, like, do stuff. You'll go yell, try to stop me. Okay, thank you for refresh. Let me just finish up this paragraph. Okay. To conclude this, though, is to overlook that unjust societies allow for egalitarian micro-contexts in which the discriminatory norms operate in society at large are rejected or rendered inoperative by people acting as if they did not obtain. People's words and actions affect the normative landscape of the micro-environments they inhabit. In asking Pete for permission when his permission would not be needed, Gina contributes to make their normative relationship asymmetrical, as does Pete by failing to object. She brings gender norms of deference to bear in that particular context, while he grabs the localized authority that he would have failed to have had they both acted as if those norms did not obtain. Yeah, so the author's allowing for a little bit of freedom here, if in the face of like a oppressive society, like people themselves do not have to do that, assuming they're not going to be like, caught acting in a certain way. Let me just finish this up, and then we'll finish up with let's get this in real fast, and let's see what new horrors Cinesemiotics has for us. Oh my god, I'm like a little kid. He's so cute. Oh, here we go. Sorry. I'm so cute. Look at this. I'm like a little kid. And we got some scary, like, cyberpunk dude in the background. Like Haley Joel Osment version of me. Oh, I'm like a girl now. Oh, she's so cute. So cute. Okay, what is this? On Big Bean burritos and how to extract answers from them. Burrito interrogation techniques. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on in this scene, but, like, it looks like they're creating sparks or something interesting with burritos. Or that steam? Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's interesting. There's, like, some Italian guy around here. Like, hey, burrito! On asking permission from those within presumed authority. Yeah, so you're asking permission from the police, even though, like, the police may not have anything to do with it. Interesting. On epic titties. Okay. Epic. Wow. Okay. And there I'm back. Thank you, Cinesemiotics. This is amazing. Epic titties. That's right. Yeah, I may have to put that in Aris's Discord. Okay, now let's read the conclusion and rate the paper. MDD says, does the author mention the move where you ask for permission to confer authority, but also responsibility for an action you are about to commit? No, they did not do that. So, like, asking someone's permission to do something also confers them the responsibility. You're saying, like, I think I mentioned this earlier, but, like, when people say, I'm just following orders, as, like, yeah, I asked them, they said it was okay, and so you're deferring to your boss or something. Yeah, but I guess it'd be more complicated because, like, say I asked a random person on the street if I was allowed to go rob the bank, and they said, yeah, sure, go right ahead. But, like, asking, they don't have any right to, permit me to rob a bank or to go in and take money out of a bank I don't have. So the idea that I was asking them doesn't it conferred authority on them, but it didn't in, like, the sense on what I was going to do, but it doesn't confer legal authority or, me, like, the institutional authority about going to bank and taking whatever I want. So they didn't talk about that, but, like, I could see that'd be very similar, but there'd be a few little wrinkles. MDD says, like, when I'm about to make a sketchy turn and ask the person beside me, can I make this turn? They answer in the affirmative, and making a turn is a mistake. I can now nag them and say, you said it was okay. Yeah, exactly. But, again, like, if the cop arrests you for making, like, a weird left-hand turn where you're not allowed to, they don't give a shit that you asked the other person. You're gonna be the one that gets the ticket. So you don't confer legal authority. Maybe you can nag them about it, but that's all you're gonna get. Yeah, I mean, I also, like, this actually came up once in a philosophy discussion where I was talking to a very, very impressive, like, important philosopher across the room, and they were saying, well, you can't go faster than the speed of light. I said, well, you have my permission to go faster than the speed of light. I grant you full permission to go faster than the speed of light, and I ask, if you do, tell me how you did it. And this really shut him up, because I don't have the authority to grant him that, but in the context, I could say, you have my permission, I can grant you that, and, like, can you violate a law of nature? Oh, I don't have responsibility. I have no control over laws of nature. But, he said, you don't have responsibility to do it. I said, sure I do. I can grant you my permission right now. So in that local context, I can grant permission. But again, the laws of nature don't give a shit what I think. And same with, like, legal laws. No laws in this country give a shit what I think. Yeah, so do not break your bank. I hope so. That's the thing. Yeah, I actually, like, this is why I remember this one, because that was a very famous philosopher that I shut up. I mean, it wasn't like it was angry discussion, but like he didn't actually like he realized that I had pulled one of the things off that this paper said, and he didn't have a comeback because I could grant permission and responsibility by saying, well, what if you can do it, like go right ahead, you have my permission. And like so I pulled this sort of thing off once to cut off his argument that like, oh no, you can't like we don't have rights to say you can go faster than light. I'm like, well, no, you do have a right to do it. Like, you don't know, like if you figure it out, go right ahead and do it. So yeah, conclusion. Langton and others have claimed that speaker authority condition for ordering, which in principle should be satisfied before the speaker starts speaking, can in fact be satisfied afterwards in virtue of hearers refraining from challenging the speaker's contribution. I have broadened this picture by pointing out that while certain illocutions like orders abide by speaker authority condition, others like permission requests abide by a hearer authority condition. I have argued that hearer authority can be supplied in the moment via accommodation, much like speaker authority. Accommodation can provide an easy way not only to acquire authority for oneself, but also to confer it to others. In closing, I pointed to some problematic implications that this dynamic may have for those groups of people, like women, that are socially hooked into displaying deference to others. Okay. MD says, you are no doubt the subject of an uncharitable hypothetical in a future paper. I don't think that guy cares about me enough, but yeah, that's possible. All right, this was, this is an okay paper. Let's give it a review. So I don't know if I have anything super to say. Like, well, here's what they did. They came up with a situation where they could say, all right, this is a new spin on this topic. Like, how do people get authority? And by asking permission, you grant them authority in the moment, perhaps. Their examples were good enough. I didn't love them. We've talked about that. And then at the end, they did a little hand waving to say, society at large could also be affecting the sort of questions that people are sort of habituated into asking. And so that can then chip away at their agency. And that's a nice point. So they expanded on their claim to show how society might, force people into doing this and then affect their agency. So not so bad. So let's give it a review. This is the emote review. Everyone in chat now is free to be part of the review, which will be recorded and then put up on the internet for time immemorial so that the author can see how we thought about their paper. The emotes are, you can see on the screen, the way you write it out is though all the way on the left. Yeah, right, sorry. Things are backwards. All the way on the right side, you write that out. And so brain dances is, did this have some fun ideas in it? If it did have fun ideas, you give it a few brain dances or one or whatever. Adam Fire says, not in my house is a den of lions. Loudest roar gets authority. Yeah, I mean, this is how it works. But this is a special case, if you did ask me to rob a bank and I responded yes, would I be legally culpable in court? I very much doubt that, because it would not be a reasonable thing to ask. Like, if you ask someone if you can rob the bank and like you were just some random person on the street and not like if say you were the president of the bank, then you might get in trouble. But like if you're just some random person, I doubt it, because why would any random person be able to grant you permission to rob a bank? Burrito says, my authority rule, never ask any questions you don't know the answer to. Yeah, you good lawyer. Okay. So we got brain dance. Did this have fun ideas? Did this make you think about stuff? Grapes, did this make any big claims that shriveled up? Nah, this didn't make any big claims. It made a simple claim and then, tried to expand on. Navel gazing is only for academics, kind of. I mean, they tried to do a little bit of work at the end to make it more interesting in terms of society, but it was, a little bit of nitpicking the locutionary stuff, but not necessarily bad either. Ouroboros, did this have like deep ancient mysteries about stuff? Adam Fighter thought this was poop. They was all style, no substance. Ivan Neo said it was analytic, it's sliced and diced.
You're winning, sir. Oh, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you for the bits. Oh, I did not realize the review was on top of the video. And I'm sorry that the TTS is not working. You have permission to rob any bank you wish, and this permission has been granted you on the condition that you not do so. Yeah, so you give me a contradictory thing. That's great. Sorry about the TTS. Okay. All right, so Browser Bean Burrito did not like it either. All style, no substance. Thanks again for the 137 bits, Semiotics. And then so Chiron liked it, said some fun ideas and got a yay. So, okay, what am I going to say? I mean, this is kind of like, I mean, this is not a terrible paper. It's an okay paper. It's an analysis thing. MDD says it could have been more developed. In your opinion, it was a good read overall. I think definitely something to think about. Yeah, like this is the thing. If you were into this sort of stuff, you have to be an analytic person. So it's like I'm gonna give it a yeah, the Titus and TTS. Let's see. I'm gonna give it a Nog knife because it was a little this was very sort of analytic-y. So it's you get a knife here. Epic TTS, yeah. Epic titties. I don't think it had no substance. Like they did what they said they were gonna do. We're gonna give it a navel also. Well, does this deserve a navel? Not really. This is just gonna get a knife and vote yay for me. Because like if you like this, it's good, but this is not like super great. This is like if you are interested in this sort of thing, then it's good. And like, are you interested in linguistic power struggles? Basically, is what's going on here, and it's just a little bit of analytics. It's not a whole lot of existential anything, like not a lot of that. Like what I mean, they tried to do the social thing kind of at the end, but you know, again, that was more hand waving at the psychology of habituation than what they argued in the paper. Now that's fair, that can happen, but like okay.